Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she moves me. I don't wanna leave her now. You know I believe in time. Something in her smile, she knows that I don't need no other lover. Something in her style that shows me I don't wanna leave her now. You know I believe in her. You're asking me, will our love grow? I don't know. I don't know. You stick around now, it may show, but I don't know. I don't know. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. Something in the way she moves me. I don't wanna leave her now. You know I believe in love. When the rain is pouring in your face and the whole world is on your case, I could offer you a warm embrace. to make you feel my love. When evening shadows and the stars appear, and there's no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for a million years to make you feel my love. I know you hadn't made your mind up yet, but I could never do you wrong. I knew it from the moment that we met. There's no doubt in my mind where you belong. I go hungry, I go black and blue, and I go crawling down the avenue. You see, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storm is raging down the rolling sea, and on the highway of regret, the winds of change are blowing wild and free. But you ain't seen nothing like me yet. Oh, Lord, I make you happy, make your dreams come true. You see, there's nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the end of the earth for you to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love. Ooh, yeah, make my love. Oh, yeah, 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 to make you feel, 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 feel my love. Whoa, whoa, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love. Good morning, everybody. How are y'all? Hi, I'm Olivia, and we are actually part of the Hook Club. This is Ricky Pistone on guitar. We've got John Toscano on bass. We'll be playing for you all day long, so keep it going. We've got one more for you. I wanna love and treat you right. I wanna love you every day and every night. We'll be together with a roof over our head. We'll share the shelter of my single bed. We'll share the same room. John provides the bread. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? Is this love, love, love that I'm feeling? Oh, I wanna know now. Oh, I wanna know, 'cause I'm willing to neighbor. So I lay my cards on your table, yeah. I wanna love you. I wanna love and treat you, love and treat you, love and treat you right. I wanna love you every day and every night. We'll be together with a roof right over our heads. We'll share the shelter of my single bed. We'll share the same room with John provides the bread. Is this love? Is this love? Is this love? Is this love that I'm feeling? Is this love, 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 love that I'm feeling? Tell me, is it love? Would you tell me if it's love that I'm feeling? Is it love, love that I'm feeling? Oh, is it love? Is it love that I'm feeling? Is it love, love that I'm feeling? Is it love, love? Is it love, love that I'm feeling? Thank you so much.
Incredible. I thought our speaker lineup was impressive, but that band was next level. Let's give it up for the Hook Club one more time. And let's give it up for the product school team. Woo-woo! Welcome, everyone, to the Metropolitan Pavilion. Can you believe it? The last time that we were here in person in New York was all the way back in 2019. And we couldn't be more excited to see all of your beautiful faces here again. As many of you know, we're not just holding this event inside of these four walls. We've got over 10,000 product professionals joining us online via Hopin. So let's give it up for the folks joining us virtually. We've got people tuning in from Germany, Spain, India, the United States, Dubai, the Philippines, even Japan. And even though I'm just showing off here a little bit, the reason why I bring this up is because I want to say we appreciate them so much for tuning in super early in the morning or super late at night. So thank you to all of them. My name is Chantel. I'm a product marketing manager here at Product School. And a fun fact about me is that I flew all the way from Paris just to be here with you today. And it's going to be quite the day. Before we really get started, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you for showing up today. You've taken the next step towards building amazing and awesome product organizations and fueling product careers. I can feel all of your passion and excitement from up here. So I want to challenge you. I know it's early. I want to challenge you this morning to do two things. The first one is to meet 3 new people today. And the second one is to tune in, dive deep with us. You know, follow along all of these amazing speakers that we've got. Do you think you can do that for me, those 2 goals? That didn't sound convincing. Do you think you can do that for me? Woo-woo! Amazing. All right. Now for some serious stuff. It's time for me to do my job, which is to orient you for our event today. First up, let me give a virtual tour to our virtual audience. So bear with me for just a moment. Hi to everybody on Hopin. I'm about to give you that virtual tour, so be sure to tune in. Right now, you're on the main stage with me. On the left-hand side, you're going to see all the other areas of the event. We've got the reception where you can find the schedule for the day, the networking area, which I'm sure you're super excited to check out, the expo hall with our amazing vendors, and of course, the productcon challenge, which is super fun, and I hope that you all participate. If you swipe up underneath the stage, you'll find useful links to the next productcons and other golden nuggets. So please, feel free to explore and make yourself at home until 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, enough of me talking. I want to hear you guys blow it up in the chat online. Send those GIFs, send those emojis. Let us know where you're tuning in from today and make some noise. Okay, I'm back. Time for the agenda for the day. Not only do we have incredible talks and panel discussions lined up for you by world-class speakers, we also have vendors with some raffles going on. I hear that Full Story is giving out an Apple TV. Heap has got some Apple Watches, and InVision has AirPods. Plus, there's other games and prizes out there. I mean, we've got a photo booth, both in person and online, a DJ, our amazing band, the Hook Club, and coffee breaks. Of course, the best part of the day, right? We've got those coffee breaks from one of our awesome sponsors, Lucid. So make sure that you pop by their booth because it's not every day that you get free coffee. And of course, I wouldn't be a marketer if I didn't remind you that we're in the age of tech and social media. So please, we highly encourage everybody to take photos, take screenshots, make some noise on social media for us. You can go ahead and use the hashtag productcon and tag Product School across Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter so that we can follow along, and let's get this event trending. Finally, for our in-person guests, I want you to all pick up your badge. I don't have mine. Pick up your badge and just take a look beside your name. If you have a star beside your name, it means that you get access to lunch on the second floor. So just keep that in mind. We'll have more details on that later. Oh, I hear the hype. Everybody wants lunch. Okay, all right. So that's a lot of information. I hope that you guys got to absorb all of that. And if not, it's okay. We've got our volunteers and our staff around the venue wearing the bright blue t-shirts, so feel free to stop one of them if you have any questions. Now that the logistics are out of the way, I want to take a second to talk a little bit about product school. Can I get a raise of hands or some comments online? How many of you were familiar with product school before today? Okay, all right. Well, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, it's okay, I got you. Product school is the gold standard for product management training and certifications. We train both individuals and teams. Our cohorts are delivered live by leading practitioners with industry expertise to give everybody that front row feeling. I see my keeners up here. You might be wondering, what do I do with that information? Why don't you go check out our booth and you can go and talk to our reps both online and here in person. And I have a surprise for you. What's in it for you guys if you go and talk to them? Well, today only, we've got something special up our sleeves for all of our students. That is correct. Today only, if you enroll in any of our 3 certifications, you're going to be able to save $600 for any one of those courses. Can I hear some excitement for that? That's a lot of money. Woo, woo, woo. All right. Now that you're pumped and you're all ready to learn, I want to start welcoming our opening speaker to the stage. We have Uday Chakravarthi, VP of Product at Atlassian. A fun fact about Uday is that he was one of the first product school instructors in Seattle, and today he's the VP of Product at Atlassian. Uday has extensive experience leading teams in companies like Zillow, PayPal, Microsoft, and TripAdvisor. Today, Uday will be speaking on doing revenue expansion in product-led growth companies. Let's welcome Uday to the stage.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here back at productcon here in New York. Good morning to folks here. I hope you all had your coffee and are ready to go. And good afternoon, good evening to folks who are watching it on Hopin across the world. It's fascinating to see how much product school has grown. I still remember, my days as an instructor, and now when I look at some of the amazing work product school has done with over 1.5 million product managers in the community, really getting value, learning about the craft of product management and growing in their careers. It's just fascinating to see. All right. So I'll start off with an introduction about myself, and then I'll talk more about my experiences at Atlassian and why revenue expansion in product-led growth companies is so important, especially during these times when the overall tech industry is slowing down. I started my journey as a PM at PayPal, launching products from 0 to 1. And back in those days, I really was fascinated by how much value we can provide to our customers and delight them. And I really enjoyed the whole process of understanding the customer problems, looking at competitive landscape, the analysis, and then coming up with the right solution and delighting our customers. And I have continued to stay in that field since then and continue to enjoy and grow in my career. And throughout my career, I've worked at companies like PayPal, where I led consumer product, to Microsoft, where I led growth for Azure, and recently at Zillow, leading marketplaces. Currently, I'm head of product here at Atlassian, where I lead our monetization, growth, revenue expansion teams that are responsible for driving growth for all the Atlassian products. In today's talk, I'm going to cover 3 things, and the first one is understanding revenue expansion and how these strategies can really fuel growth for product-led growth companies. The second is how Atlassian does product-led growth and revenue expansion. I'll share some of my own examples, some of the experiments we have done, and what the impact of that has been. And lastly, share some tips on how today's product leaders can use some of these strategies to drive growth and revenue expansion for their companies. All right. So let's start with revenue expansion. How many of you have used or heard about Jira? Almost everyone, so that's awesome. And you may have started using Jira, and then suddenly you may have stumbled upon another product, let's say Trello or Confluence. Maybe some of your team members were using it, and then you started using that. And now you're using multiple products and getting more value. So that's essentially your classical way of land and expand strategy, which has become quite popular with a lot of companies like Salesforce, Adobe, Microsoft, that has a lot of different products for customers. Revenue expansion is essentially the revenue that comes from existing customers by means of different strategies like upselling, cross-selling, etc., where the same customers or existing customers can start using more products to get more value. And that's what drives the revenue expansion. The chart you see here, you'll see that there are two lines, and this is the compound interest. When you look at the effect of compounding or exponential growth, revenue expansion comes to mind. Because once you have a customer that starts using more and more products, and get more and more value, that itself drives your revenue. So you don't have to go after a lot of customers, but with one customer, you can actually drive more value. This is the land and expand model, which a lot of you may have heard, pretty common in SaaS companies. It starts with acquiring a new customer. A new customer can be a B2B or B2C, and then quickly deliver value, which is one of the core principles of product-led growth. Once they see value, they're more likely to come back and start using your products more and more. And then, once they get more and more value, they're going to expand into more products or additions or add-ons. So that's what drives your land and expand flywheel. It's really about customer retention and building long-term customer value. So next, look at how revenue expansion can fuel product-led growth. Here in this chart, you can see some of the fastest growing SaaS companies. You have the Zooms of the world, the Shopifys, Atlassian, and the best SaaS companies can turn $1 of sales or marketing spend into recurring gross profit at an incredible rate. And that is why, and the reason they're able to do that is because often these companies don't have a lot of investments going into sales and marketing, and more of the investments goes into R&Ds, which actually drives the flywheel, and they're able to generate more cash flow and be profitable. Now, before I go into some examples of how Atlassian does revenue expansion, I want to give a quick background on Atlassian. Many of you know us from using our products like Jira, Confluence, Trello, Bitbucket. We have over 16 different products that are geared towards teams to make them more productive and collaborative. Atlassian was founded in 2002 in Sydney. We have over 9,800 employees. Our products are used in over 190 countries worldwide. We have 240K plus customers, which could be startups or enterprise companies. And we also have over 5,350 marketplace apps. So that's a bit of a background about Atlassian. Why is revenue expansion so important? Especially in today's times when companies are not growing as fast, they're not hiring as fast, and the ability to acquire new customers goes down, especially for B2B SaaS companies. We're seeing that in a lot of companies. When you have less folks who are using your products, you're not able to acquire new customers. And what becomes even more important during these times is the existing customers that you have, how do you actually generate more revenue from that pool of customers? So the revenue expansion becomes even more important. The three drivers of revenue expansion that really propels product-led growth. First one is no customer acquisition cost. Your customer acquisition cost is low or almost non-existing because your existing customers are just expanding into more products. So you don't have to go back and run paid media campaigns or ads to acquire these customers. And higher percentage of revenue, therefore, can be spent on improving the products, building more features, on research and development. The second driver is lower customer churn rate. Because your customers are getting increased value, they're using more products or more features, they are less likely to churn. And that also is because they are also highly satisfied customers. As you may know, MRR churn inhibits growth in SaaS companies. So it's really, and some churn is inevitable, you will see. However, some of these strategies can really lower that customer churn rate to drive more retention and longer customer lifetime value. All right, so the next slide is, let's see. Looks like this clicker has having some issues. Yeah, for some reason this clicker is not working. Maybe you get another one. All right. While that happens, the reasons why the revenue expansion is so critical is there are 4 sort of key things that are important here. First one, looks like it's moving here, but it's not moving there. All right. So the first one is, first strategy is upsell. This is about encouraging customers to get more value through your products by giving them more features through addition upgrades. For example, a lot of times you see you have free products, then you have standard and then premium editions. And upselling is essentially a way for you to encourage customers to get more value. And they become more sticky, and then you can retain them for longer period of time. More value leads to greater retention and then more revenue. Here is an example of an upsell experiment we ran some time back. Here you can see our hypothesis was explaining how each feature can benefit a customer's day-to-day life will increase purchase rates. And what you'll see here in the screenshot is we have a model where each feature has a link that pops up, and it shows the customer the benefit of that specific feature, and essentially how does it change their day-to-day life. And by showing this, we were able to drive a significant increase in purchase rates and get more customers from free to standard and standard to our premium editions. So that's one example of how upsell strategies can really fuel growth. The second example is cross-sell. This is where an existing customer that's using a product, let's say product A, maybe Jira, buys a complementary product. It could be Confluence on Trello, or adds on. And as your customers are using more product, they're getting more value, and that drives more revenue. One example of an experiment we launched some time back is we surfaced relevant product integrations to customers to help them get more value faster and result in adoption of more products. In the screenshot, you can see we have Jira, and we took a segment of customers, developer audience, who are more likely to use our other products, like Bitbucket, and surface that in the customer journey. It wasn't blocking what they were doing, but more like a complementary and a path we created for customers. And what we saw was this helped drive significant uplift in new product MAU, which is monthly active users for Bitbucket. So this is one example of how we can surface other complementary products or apps to drive cross-sell. The third strategy is user expanse. So think of your team members. Let's say you're using a product, Confluence, and you really liked the product. Now you want more and more team members to use it. So you might go and click on an invite button, and then 10 other folks are now starting to use your products and collaborating. So it's more natural, immediate way to make teams more productive and then drive virality. One example of an experiment we tried for user expanse is our hypothesis here was, if we allow users to invite collaborators with in-context invites, it'll increase collaboration and drive more monthly active users. Here in this example, you could see we introduced a contextual touch point in Confluence. Whenever you @mention and start typing a name, if you see less than 2 folks, names of less than 2 folks showing up that are already using your product, we introduce a tab at the bottom that says invite this team member or add this team member to Confluence. And once you invite, the user gets an email, they click on a link, they actually come back and start using Confluence. So that's one example of how we use contextual user invite features to drive virality for our products. And this experiment led to a double-digit percentage uplift in invites. The fourth strategy is product integrations. Oftentimes you have these products that you're already using, for example, Slacks of the world or Zooms of the world, and by building these integrations with third-party, we can not only enhance value for our customers, but also essentially create a new channel for revenue. Some of you may have seen this, or if not, I would highly encourage, we have plugins for Slack where you can actually create tickets, you can change statuses, you can invite folks and collaborate on Confluence without actually going to our product itself. That way, users don't have to leave Slack. They can still use the same product and still work on Atlassian products. And the key here is to build that integration between the products so that your customers get more value. This is an example where we essentially build product integrations with apps like Slack, and the hypothesis was by doing so, this will increase productivity and retention. We also have an offer with Slack where Atlassian customers get a discount for buying Slack. So we ran this experiment, and what we saw was, and the important thing was also building the integration at the same time, because if you don't build that integration and you just have an offer, customers really can't use both the products effectively. So once we built that, we saw that millions of monthly notifications are now being driven through Slack. And that also contributes to a revenue share for Atlassian. So that's another strategy of how we do revenue expansion through integrations. Now, you've seen a few different strategies around upsell, cross-sell, user invites, partnership, integrations. There are a few things that are really important when you think about these strategies in PLG companies. And I want to talk about 3 key takeaways that you can take and start experimenting with this to drive revenue expansion. The first one is, we at Atlassian, we invest in growth teams and growth strategies to drive revenue expansion. We have teams that drive upsell. We have teams that drive cross-sell, user invites for different Atlassian products. And their focus is really driving that part of the funnel. And because we are able to do that, you can see on the chart on the right side, the percentage of sales and marketing that Atlassian has compared to some of other companies, the Slack of the world, the Zooms of the world, is quite low. Which means that because we're spending less on this, we are able to invest a lot more in R&D to really drive the product-led growth flywheel. We run experiments throughout the year. Just last year, we ran over 100 experiments to drive revenue expansion. So that's where a lot of these growth teams come into play. So the key takeaway being really investing in revenue expansion experiments. The second takeaway here is have strong set of guiding principles when you think about executing these strategies. Oftentimes, small innovation can drive the most meaningful impact for your customers. However, without a set of these principles, you really can't achieve success. Listen to your gut, talk to customers. If you're able to do A/B tests, get data, that's awesome. But for some of the critical strategic decisions, definitely use data. Think about confidence building experiments and ideas over process, and then shipping on outcomes versus shipping on time. It's okay if you have to push your feature release or an experiment by a week or two, as long as you're really focused on understanding the customer needs and then tying that back to a testable hypothesis that you have confidence on. That can really deliver an outcome for you. And the third takeaway here is know your metrics by heart. And it doesn't matter if you're just an intern or an APM or associate PM or a senior PM, or at a leadership level, a VP or a chief product officer at a company. It's really important that you know your metrics for your business by heart. First one is around the comprehensive funnel view. Having a better understanding of your product health, the customer segments can really help you define the product roadmap and strategic priorities. If you know there is a problem at one step of the funnel, if you know that the kind of a customer, let's say business customers who are from a specific function, if you see a drop off there, now you can really think about, does it make sense to build something to improve the experience for that segment of customers. So really knowing your funnel in and out is the first aspect of knowing your metrics by heart. The second one is focus on insights, not just data. Small insights can lead to step-changing businesses and customer outcomes. I can't stress the importance of this enough, having experienced this in the last 12 to 13 years. Oftentimes, we have analytics teams that have monthly insights meetings with our product teams, and we look at the insights that are coming out, and then we ideate on experiments or ideas that can really move the needle. So make it a part of your product management craft, that this depending on how big your analytics team is, sometimes you're able to do it yourself, but sometimes you really need to have a strong team who can get you those insights. And then the third one is OKRs, which are your objectives and key results, for essentially mapping your goals for the quarter and for the year, and then having business reviews, which could be, let's say, monthly business reviews or quarterly business reviews for your product. Sometimes, this may not be the process for the companies you work at, but you can actually create a process like that, and you can get the right stakeholders from marketing, from analytics, kick it off, and then you can go through the metrics on a monthly basis, how you're doing, if you need to make any trade-offs or adjustments as part of it. So really, start thinking about how you can monitor and measure the effectiveness of these strategies by heart. So those are the three key takeaways, and this is especially important when you think about revenue expansion in product-led growth companies. With that, I want to thank all of you for coming here and listening to this talk. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I have a Substack where I also share some of my newsletters and strategies on product-led growth, as well as Medium. Thank you, everyone. All right. You got it.
Thank you, Uday. I don't know if you guys all noticed, mostly my folks in the front row, but Uday and I had matching shoes today, so be sure to check that out later. Let's give it up one more time for Uday. Amazing. All right, I'm excited to announce our next speaker coming up on stage. That's right, we have Natalie Gibralter, VP of Product at Squarespace, joining us. Natalie became the first product manager at Squarespace. Now, over a decade later, she's helping the company build incredible commerce platform features as the VP of Product. Today, Natalie will speak on the lessons she's learned over the past decade on how to scale a product from startup to a public company. Let's welcome Natalie to the stage.
Hello. I'm Natalie Gibralter, and I'm Natalie Gibralter, and I joined Squarespace over 10 years ago, drawn in by the company's mission to make it easy and accessible for anyone to build a beautiful and professional online presence. And that anyone includes me. Years before I joined Squarespace, I built this website for the nonprofit that I ran on the Squarespace platform. Now, I know that it's not much to look at now, but trust me, in 2010, this was pretty great. Instead of paying someone thousands of dollars to build this website, for a few dollars a month, I was able to build a website that I believe added credibility to the work that we were doing and contributed to our early success. I was so inspired by how Squarespace leveled the playing field for ideas that when the time came to look for a new job, I knew that I wanted to be a part of Squarespace's mission. And there are so many stories like this that I've heard from our customers over the years. In fact, just 20 minutes ago, I was talking with the founder of Product School, Carlos, and he was telling me that the first website that he built for Product School himself was on the Squarespace platform as well. Squarespace was very much a startup at the time, with about 70 employees and tens of thousands of customers. Fast forward a decade later, we are over 1,000 employees, a public company generating millions of dollars and having millions of customers. So much has happened over these 10 years, and I got to be a part of many various stages of growth. The pattern that I saw repeated over and over again through those various stages is that what gets you to point A often won't get you to point B. There are operational processes, organizational structures, strategies, roles, people, approaches that work at a certain stage of a company that you might later outgrow. And the very same things that might drive your success early on can be exactly the same things that hold you back later on. So a key part of the journey to scale is being open, nimble, and willing to identify when you've outgrown something and able to shift to something new that will help you get to that next stage. It tends to be hard at times to let go of the things that drive our early success, and we can often hold on to them for too long. But being able to adapt and let go of the things that contribute to your early success are key to both long-term organizational success as well as personal professional success when you're in a growing company. As I was telling my friend and former colleague Andrew Bartholomew about this talk and the lessons that I internalized throughout those years, he told me that my talk made him think about how animals molt or remove the shells or skins that they've outgrown to make room for new growth. And I found this to be a perfect metaphor. As product managers, the essence of our role is being able to adapt to change, adapting to new market dynamics, to new consumer behaviors, new technologies, and if we're successful, adapting with our organizations as they grow. Adapting to change is in the very fabric of our work as product leaders. It is so very natural to outgrow the shells that serve us at a certain stage, and yet, in the same way that a crab is most vulnerable in those moments of molting from one shell to the next, we too can find these moments very scary, especially when we're experiencing them for the first time. There's a reason why these moments are often called growing pains. But the key lesson that I've learned throughout these years is that change is inevitable. And if you approach it with interest and with curiosity, rather than denial and fear, opportunities can abound. So today I'm going to tell you about some of the pivotal moments of molting that I experienced at Squarespace over the past decade, and 4 of the lessons that I learned through those moments that I hope might be helpful to you as well. Lesson 1 is narrow scope and go deep to grow. So let's go back to the beginning. I joined Squarespace in April of 2012 as the first business development hire. That function didn't exist at the time, and so my job description was pretty fluid. Squarespace had been working on a major replatforming for a couple of years that would allow us to serve a broader set of websites, and I was asked to think about two specific opportunities. The first was, should we go after restaurants as a vertical? And the second was, should we pursue students as a market? I threw myself into these questions, developing a strategic perspective on each, and also partnering closely with the engineering team to explore product solutions around them. One day, over lunch, one of the engineers that I worked with, Thomas Chow, here he is, dear friend, told me how he was playing around with the new Stripe API that had just come out to build an integrated shopping cart feature. I found this idea fascinating, not only because this new technology was unlocking completely new possibilities for how we could serve our customers, but it was also different than anything else we had built at Squarespace. At the time, we explicitly built products for ourselves and scaled them to the masses. Our team of engineers and designers understood the problem spaces intimately well because they lived them. They were photographers, bloggers, artists, and had built Squarespace to solve their own use cases. However, e-commerce was different. No one on the team, not even Thomas, not myself, actually lived the experience of running an e-commerce business. No one was fulfilling orders, shipping boxes, or managing inventory. So I offered to speak to some prospective customers to better understand their needs, and that is how Thomas and I started working together on building the commerce product. Our new platform, Squarespace 6, launched that July, and by the start of 2013, we launched our commerce functionality. Here's a photo that Thomas took when we hit our first 100 stores. While working on commerce, I also continued the rest of my business development work. In addition to the product work, I was leading multiple large partnerships, having a lot of fun, and contributing to the business growth, which was moving at a very rapid pace. There was so much opportunity that my boss at the time, the COO, Jesse Hertzberg, knew that we needed to grow the business development function as well. I vividly remember the day that Jesse and I were in our weekly one-on-one meeting, and he told me that I needed to choose a more narrow category focus. In that first moment of hearing this, it felt very hard and actually quite scary to make that choice. I was proud of all of the work that I had done, really enjoyed the breadth of responsibility, and I didn't want to give any of it up. Plus, I was afraid of making the wrong choice. But not choosing wasn't an option, and ultimately, I ended up shedding the shell of my first role and becoming the category manager for commerce. In retrospect, that ended up being the single best career decision I've made to date, but it was far from obvious at the time. Commerce ended up being a critical part of company growth, and today is frankly the core of our strategy and our future. And our company trajectory could have looked quite different had we not chosen to focus here so deeply at that time. But at that moment, e-commerce for SMBs was still fairly nascent, and it wasn't obvious that this bet would pay off as big as it did. Had I not reduced and focused the scope of my work at the time, I would not be the VP of product for commerce today. And as scary as that moment was, this ultimately ended up being an incredibly important lesson. To see the narrowing of focus not as losing something, but creating space to take on something else, something new that might be a new stretch. All too often, people feel like the only way to move up in your career is to take on more stuff, to broaden your territory. But often, moving up has more to do with going deep and demonstrating success and effectiveness rather than just taking on more. Both developing a mindset about your own scope, as well as your team's scope if you're a manager, just as Jesse did, that puts strategic growth for your company first, will often result not just in better business impact, but I believe also career impact for you and for your team. I saw this lesson repeated so many times over at Squarespace over the past 10 years, and it is not unique to us. If you align yourself with value creation, and particularly strategic value creation, the rest will follow. Our second lesson is to be consistent with principles and fluid with rules. So from its very first days, Squarespace was a company that inspired creativity, valued the power of the individual, and held the belief that great ideas can come from anywhere and anyone. These foundational principles were core to the products that we built and the work environment in which we built them. As I shifted my focus solely to commerce, these principles were at the forefront of my mind. I convinced the CEO, our founder, Anthony Casalena, that we should begin hiring engineers onto a dedicated commerce team to help them develop expertise in that customer use case, whereas before we just had one engineering team that worked on everything. And before long, 5 engineers were on the team. Here's where we used to sit at the time, watching our screens together as we hit some meaningful milestone. And having the team dedicated to these customers helped them develop a really deep understanding of their needs. The team was full of passion for these merchants and great and varied ideas for how we could better serve them. As the team was growing, so was our customer base and the variety of their needs. This was both tremendously exciting and also meant that we now needed a more defined and ordered way to prioritize which problems we would solve. My role evolved at this point to provide the necessary strategic direction, to identify the most valuable problems for us to solve, and then engage this team to unearth the best solutions together. And as a result, the team actually gained agency and became widely regarded as our most motivated team of engineers. It was at this juncture that my role evolved into more pure product management. But it was really scary for the organization to call my work product management. And let me explain why. Up until that point, there was no product manager role at Squarespace. In fact, the title product manager carried somewhat of a stigma at Squarespace. We had made it a point to entice prospective engineers to join our company with the assurance that they would have full agency around what work they would do without a product manager telling them what to do. And the reality was that for the first number of years of the company, when we were smaller in scale, there truly wasn't a need for product managers. Anthony, our founder, was the head of product, solving the needs that he had identified for a better way to build websites. And our development team, as we talked about, was full of photographers and bloggers that understood the problems they were solving innately well. So not having product managers worked really, really well, until we got to a scale where it no longer did. Not having PMs at our smaller scale was designed to maintain the agency of the individuals on the team and was core to our building the initial stages of success of Squarespace and to the entrepreneurial spirit and culture that so defined that early success. And that's why it was scary to let go of that no PMs rule that had worked so well for so long. But it was undeniably clear that at the customer base and the employee scale that we had reached, and at the rate of growth that we were continuing to experience, the role of product management in providing strategic direction and prioritization was now essential to preserve that very principles that had defined the company since its inception. At this point, developing a more nuanced set of responsibilities among the team members emerged as an essential roadmap to our growing success. So this was another molting moment for us. We shed the rule of no PMs and replaced it with a more nuanced view of how we could drive motivation, impact, and efficiency by adding PMs. In mid-2014, I officially became the first named product manager at Squarespace. The commerce team proved to be a model that the organization wanted to replicate elsewhere, and by the end of 2014, other teams began hiring PMs as well. At this point, we had hundreds of employees, hundreds of thousands of customers, and the need for product managers was very clear. The core lesson here is that as you scale, the rules may need to change in order to adhere to the underlying principles. It's important to never lose sight of the principles themselves, as they are the core part of the culture, so that you can be fluid with the rules when they no longer serve the principles. Our third lesson is codify rules and processes, or in other words, write it down. By the end of 2015, we had surpassed 500 employees and over $100 million in annual bookings. We had multiple, thank you, we had multiple product managers across various teams who were hired by different functional managers with varying expectations of that role. And while early on it worked really well for people to wear many different hats with fairly fluid responsibilities and a loose structure, we now found ourselves at a developmental moment where consistency was starting to become essential. There was great inconsistency in how product management, design, and engineering worked together across teams. And almost more importantly, a lot of inconsistency around how those different product teams worked with other departments, such as customer operations, finance, legal, and marketing. This began to create a lot of inefficiency as every team had a different way of developing and launching new products. Customer operations couldn't count on a consistent way to train and prepare their teams for a launch. Marketing couldn't have consistent expectations on how to partner with product teams on go-to-market. We had gotten to a point where there were enough interdependencies between these functions that having each product manager and their teams have their own ways of operating made it very difficult to be rowing together as an organization. It was hard to hold each other accountable, and it created a lot of unnecessary frustration. Again, this became another moment of molting. We decided to centralize the product management function, and my scope broadened beyond commerce as all of the PMs moved to report to me. We developed a set of guidelines on how we develop and launch products across the company. We defined consistent roles and responsibilities for all product managers and created our first product management career ladder and hiring process. And we got it all down on paper. And while it wasn't necessary to have this codification early on, as conversations between small groups of individuals completely sufficed in getting alignment, at scale, codification became important to collaborate effectively across large groups of people. And again, this was scary for the organization, as teams and individuals had been so used to complete freedom around how work would get done or decisions would get made, and this meant that many folks needed to change approaches that had come to feel quite comfortable. But ultimately, by writing down roles and responsibilities, processes, strategies, we were able to streamline the workflow of the organization to better ensure efficiency. At a small scale, individual agency can come from fluidity, but at a larger scale, the clarification of roles and processes creates coherence and can enable agency to thrive again. And our final lesson is to identify single points of accountability. By 2016, our product portfolio was growing, and we had expanded into selling domains and brought in an additional product leader with deep expertise in domains to co-lead product together with me. Over the following years, I assumed various roles and responsibilities for different parts of our product portfolio, and we also acquired products like appointment scheduling and social media content creation tools that brought in additional product leaders into our organization. We all reported to the CEO, and while we worked well together, the complexity of our product portfolio grew. And as the buck didn't stop with any one product leader, we became organizationally fragmented. We had two heads of customer operations. This fragmented leadership had also existed in commerce and in other parts of the organization as well. We had two heads of customer operations. Marketing as well was split across multiple leaders and so forth. This was a remnant of earlier days of our company when having a flatter organization that wasn't hierarchical actually helped foster our earlier success. But as we grew, we needed a cohesive product strategy under one product leader that had at its core a vision for optimizing our organizational success. By 2020, it became really clear that having a single point of leadership and therefore accountability for coherence was critical at our scale. By now, we were well over 1,000 employees and had millions of subscribers. We had already successfully centralized customer operations under one leader, as well as marketing under one leader, and it became clear that we should do the same in product as well. We were also preparing to go public, and there was public company experience that we lacked on our leadership team at the time. This became another molting moment for us as we moved from having multiple product leaders reporting to the CEO to hiring a chief product officer to lead all of product. And again, this was another scary moment for the organization, for everyone. Our CEO, Anthony, had led product up until this point. And this organizational change was a really big one. But it was so necessary and ended up being not only great for the organization, but also for each of us as product leaders. You see, with a CPO in place, I was freed up to bring my undistracted attention back to commerce. By this point, commerce was generating over $150 million in annual recurring revenue, was the fastest growing part of our company, and I wanted to align myself with the greatest opportunity to drive overall business value. Commerce had the potential to become the core part of our company strategy. And here was my chance to return to earlier lessons learned, specifically narrowing scope to grow. I relinquished responsibilities for parts of the product portfolio that distracted me from this goal, and I molted yet again to take on a new role as the VP for all of our commerce offerings. The impact on the company has been palpable. If you listen to our earnings calls, you'll now hear our CEO talk about how the future of the company is being driven by sellers and how much they sell on our platform. We launched a marketing repositioning last autumn, one that gives you everything to sell anything. And all of our teams, not just the commerce ones, are now goaled to think about the seller and their success. This strategic focus has been meaningful not only for the Squarespace business, but has also been the most rewarding part of my career so far. Narrowing my scope back to commerce enabled me to have a more outsized influence on our company strategy and drive business impact, and it also helped me grow so much as a leader and as an operator. Returning to lesson 1, narrow scope and go deep to grow. Both for the company and as an individual, here again was another example that growth doesn't always come linearly, and it doesn't always come from taking on more breadth. When, as an individual, you align yourself with creating value for the company, and a company aligns itself with creating value for its customers, good things will follow. That has proven as true in this chapter of growth as a public company as it was in earlier stages of growth as a startup. In conclusion, I want to go back to the idea of molting. I think the reason that that metaphor so resonated for me is that it represents the coincidence of vulnerability and opportunity. Just at that moment when one of those crustaceans sheds its shell, in a moment when the future looms with uncertainty, that same creature grows a bigger, better shell, and strength and endurance emerge. Over these 10 years that I have been at Squarespace, I have certainly molted several times, just as the organization has. There were certainly moments of unsettling fear, and surely of uncertainty, but I learned to see each as a chance for growth. Every stage, every shell helped me get to where I am today. Every level of organizational development, every challenge, every new approach contributed to where the company is today. And over these years, I've deeply internalized these lessons as I saw them repeated over and over again. If I can leave you with one thing today, it's that I hope that you do what I have learned to do over these years. To remember that whatever change you might be going through, or whatever evolution your company might be going through, there's an opportunity in it, both for your company and for you. If you approach it with curiosity rather than fear, opportunities can abound. And in doing so, I'll bet that you get to the next step, the next structure, the next shell, faster and more effectively. Internalize whatever lessons you learn along the way, and they will become a part of your toolkit that you will use over and over again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalie. I love the metaphor of the crab or the crustacean and its shell. Amazing. I hope we can all go forward approaching opportunities